Are you having a hard time figuring out what to get Dad for Father's Day? You should check out Row 1 Brand's Vintage Pictorum Gallery. They have America's best sports art. With over 7,200 historic sports prints, you're assured to find something unique for Dad this Father's Day. Instead of a boring old tie, get him a historic baseball photo taken by Henry High Sandham at the historic Polo Grounds Stadium in New York City during the 1894 Temple Cup. Or, if he's an NFL buff, check out the 1963 vintage NFL poster. These are so good looking that you'll be amazed how they turn out. Shop now at sportshistorynetwork.com/row1 and save 15% off your order.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
It's time for Lombardi Memories, a show that takes you back in time, into January or February, to the greatest one-day spectacle in all of sports. This is the Every Other Tuesday podcast that looks back at each and every one of the 50-plus Super Bowls and tells the story of who won and why. For the fan who needs more than just a box score, this podcast goes drive by drive, play by play, through the most dramatic games in history. I'm your host, Tommy A. Phillips, and today we have Super Bowl VIII between the defending Super Bowl champion Miami Dolphins out of the AFC going up against the NFC champions, the Minnesota Vikings. This game was held on January 13, 1974 at Rice Stadium in Houston, Texas. Yes, Little Rice. Little Rice Owls. They are the first Super Bowl to be held at a site that is not home to anyone in the NFL. Rice still plays there today. Rice was part of the Southwest Conference for the longest time, and now they're in Conference USA. But yeah, Rice is actually a pretty small school compared to most other Division I schools. So, as always, we have a pop quiz and then some homework at the end of the episode. I'm a little light on the homework this week, but I do have a good pop quiz question for you. It's this. What passing record did the Miami Dolphins set in Super Bowl VIII? The answer will come at the end of the podcast. The Dolphins won their first game of 1973 21-13 over the 49ers to give themselves an NFL record-long 18-game winning streak. They lost the next week against Oakland, only to start up another winning streak. They won their next 10 games in a row, making it 28 wins out of their last 29 games. They finished the regular season at 12-2 and as AFC East champions. In the playoffs, they had no trouble with Cincinnati or Oakland. The Bengals were in the playoffs for only the second time, and the Dolphins wiped them out in a 34-16 game. Then the Dolphins hosted the Raiders in the AFC Championship game, and this one wasn't even a contest. Miami won this game 27-10, and they were headed back to the Super Bowl to try to become only the second team to repeat, and it was their third straight appearance in the Super Bowl, a new record. Quarterback Bob Greasy threw for 1,422 yards and 17 touchdowns in 1973, while only throwing 8 interceptions. Running back Larry Csonka cracked the 1,000-yard mark and rushed for 5 touchdowns. Receiver Paul Warfield was the team's deep threat, catching 29 balls for 514 yards and 11 touchdowns. The no-name defense of the Dolphins was one to be feared. Defensive back Dick Anderson picked off 8 passes and returned 2 of them for touchdowns. As for the Vikings, they started this season by winning their first 9 games. Their defense gave up 20 or more points only 3 times the whole season. The Vikings won the NFC Central Division title with a 12-2 record. They then knocked off Washington by a 27-20 score in the divisional round before going to Texas and defeating the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC Championship game 27-10. The Vikings were led by quarterback Fran Tarkenton. He threw for 2,113 yards and 15 touchdowns, as opposed to just 7 picks. His passer rating was a stellar 93.2. Running back Chuck Foreman rushed for over 800 yards and 4 touchdowns. Oscar Reed had another 400 yards, and Ed Marinero added another 300. When it came to pass catching, receiver John Gilliam led the way with 42 catches for over 900 yards and 8 touchdowns. Foreman also caught 37 balls for 362 yards and another 2 touchdowns. And you can't forget about the Purple People Eaters on defense. Tackles Alan Page and Gary Larson and ends Carl Eller and Jim Marshall were as scary a front four as any in NFL history. The Dolphins and the Vikings were headed to Super Bowl VIII in Houston at Rice Stadium. Singer Charlie Pride sang America the Beautiful and the national anthem to begin the day, and Pride just died recently due to this awful virus that is our true enemy right now. Please get vaccinated if you can. It is the only way to fight back against this horrible virus. Just wanted to throw that in there because Charlie Pride, very sad that his life came to an end recently because of this awful coronavirus. Now, for the game itself, the Dolphins won the toss and they got to receive. They had an absolutely perfect opening drive. Jake Scott returned the opening kickoff to his 38. Running back Mercury Morris started the game with a 4-yard run. Running back Larry Csonka took his first of many carries during this game for 2 yards. Then quarterback Bob Greasy fired to tight end Jim Mandich for a first down at the Minnesota 38. Csonka powered ahead for a first down inside the 30. Then Greasy threw to receiver Marlon Briscoe to the 21. Csonka rumbled for a first down and a gain of 8 after Morris ran it to the 5. Then Csonka blasted in for a touchdown, and the Dolphins led 7-0 after a perfect opening drive. The Vikings, meanwhile, had an absolutely imperfect starting drive. Running back Chuck Foreman ran it twice and caught a pass, but managed only 9 yards. So the Vikings were forced to punt. Punter Mike Eyeside kicked it away, and Scott fumbled it as he returned it, but he was lucky. Miami recovered the loose ball. Morris started a new drive with a 5-yard run. Then Greasy found Mandich for a first down past the Minnesota 45. Morris ran down to the 39. Then Csonka ripped off an 8-yard run for a first down. Csonka took a draw 2 plays later and came close to a first down, and then he got it on an 8-yard run. Greasy then found Briscoe down at the 1-yard line for another first down, and it took Jim Kick, the running back, a couple of carries to get it into the end zone, but he did it, and Miami led 14-0 at the end of one quarter. Minnesota quarterback Fran Tarkenton managed a pass for a first down to tight end Doug Kingsrider, but after that the Vikings were forced to punt again. The Vikings finally stopped the Dolphins because of Alan Page, sacking Bob Greasy for a loss of 11 yards. But then Minnesota's next drive was also a 3-and-out, when Miami linebacker Bob Matheson and defensive tackle Manny Fernandez both combined and got a sack of Tarkenton. Then it looked like the Vikings had a first down because Tarkenton threw to Kingsrider on the right sideline, and it looked like he caught it, but the officials ruled him out of bounds. So they had a punt. Eyesight punted again, and it went down to the 34-yard line. So the Vikings, they got called for a personal foul on defense to start the next drive on a short Sonka run. Greasy then found receiver Paul Warfield for his first catch of the game, a 6-yarder. That's when Mercury Morris ran over the umpire on his way to a first down at the Minnesota 30-yard line. Sonka got 9 yards on his next 3 plays, but he couldn't get that 10th yard, so the kicker had to come in. Gero Yepremian, this time no gap, just a 23-yard field goal, and it moved Miami into a 17-0 lead. This next drive proved crucial for Minnesota's chances. Tarkenton threw to tight end Stu Voigt. I can't pronounce his name, I'm sorry. Stu Voigt? Yeah, I can't get that. But Stu Voigt caught it for a first down at the 39. And then Tarkenton went back to Voigt on the next third down, and Voigt caught it for a first down at the Miami 46. Tarkenton then found Gilliam open at the 15, and the Minnesota Vikings called timeout, first down, 1:46 remaining in the first half. Tarkenton then scrambled it himself, and he got down to the 7. But soon the Vikings faced 4th and 1, and head coach Bud Grant said, go for it. So Oscar Reed took the carry, and he tried to get it. It looked like he was stopped short, but it didn't even matter because he fumbled the ball because linebacker Nick Buonacani hit him. I can't pronounce his name either. I can't even spell it. Buonacani knocked the ball out, and Jake Scott recovered it for Miami, and the Dolphins went to the half with a 17-0 lead. By the way, I haven't been mentioning the halftime shows just because back then the halftime shows were usually just marching bands, and that was the same thing here. The Texas Longhorns band did the halftime show at this Super Bowl. Back when the halftime shows were rather tame, it was just pretty much what you'd see at a college football game, the band performing. The Dolphins forced a 3-and-out of Minnesota to start the second half, so things were still going Miami's way. Scott returned Eyesight's punt to the Minnesota 43. Sonka ran for several yards, then Greasy found Warfield down the left sideline for a first down at the 11. Sonka blasted for 4 more yards. Then the Vikings got called for holding on a third down play. 2 plays later, Sonka blasted in from the 2-yard line, and Miami now had an insurmountable 24-0 lead. Play-by-play announcer Ray Scott asked color analyst Pat Summerall and Bart Starr if even the Dolphins thought that they'd dominate the Super Bowl this way. The two of them answered in unison, no. And it was pretty funny to listen to them. They said the exact same thing at the exact same time. Because they couldn't even believe that Miami was dominating this way. And not even head coach Don Shula could imagine that his team would be in this much command. I mean, the Dolphins were just owning the Vikings. And the Minnesota Vikings punted on their next possession, and Miami ran off more clock before the end of the third quarter. The Vikes finally got on the board early in the fourth quarter. Tarkenton threw to Foreman to get past midfield, and he found Voigt, who made a great catch at the 39-yard line. Gilliam caught one for 9 more yards, and Reed ripped off a run down to the 13-yard line. Receiver Jim Lash caught one down at the 4, Then Tarkenton ran it in for a touchdown to break the shutout and make it 24-7. Minnesota then seemingly recovered the onside kick, and for a brief second it looked like we might actually have a game here. However, the Vikings were offside on the kick, so they had to do it again. This time they just squibbed it downfield to the 33-yard line. So the Dolphins then went 3-and-out, so Minnesota had a chance, and Tarkenton got the Vikings down to the Miami 32 on a pass to Marinaro, but then he threw an interception to defensive back Curtis Johnson. The Dolphins would hold on to win this one 24-7, but not before Sonka set Super Bowl records for most rushing attempts, 33, and most rushing yards, 145. The Dolphins also set another Super Bowl record in this game, the fewest pass attempts by a team in Super Bowl history. They threw only 7 passes, 6 of which were complete. One more completion, and they could have been the only team to have a perfect game passing. As it was, they broke that record, which is the answer to today's pop quiz. 7 pass attempts by a team in an entire Super Bowl game. Can you believe it? Now, who was the most valuable player on the losing team in this game, the Vikings? I have to give it to Alan Page. He blew up several Dolphin plays in the backfield. He was definitely a force, even when the rest of his team was not. He deserved better from his teammates, but he played a great game for the Vikings, and that's why I think he's the most valuable player of the losing team. The second most valuable player, who would that be? Well, since Larry Sonka won the MVP award, obviously, the second award would have to go to Bonicani. He forced that crucial fumble at the end of the first half, and his defense dominated play for much of the afternoon. He deserves full credit for a great performance on this day. The least valuable player of this game is a tough award to give out. Minnesota's bad performance was a team effort. There wasn't one player who really stuck out as the worst player. So it's very hard to do this one, but I'm going to have to give it to Fran Tarkenton. If you're a Hall of Fame quarterback, you really need to go get more than 7 points in a game. Tarkenton just didn't have his magic on this day, and the Vikings suffered as a result. The best player in this game that you've never heard of, that would be Vikings running back Ed Marinaro. He made several big plays in a losing effort, yet when I heard his name, I thought it was marinara, like meatball marinara sauce. As it turns out, he put up a good performance for the Vikes, even when his team couldn't get much accomplished on this day. The biggest play of the game had to be Reed's fumble on 4th and 1 at the end of the first half. If he gets that first down, then the Vikings likely get a touchdown and go to the half down only 17-7, and they have a lot of hope going into the second half. Instead, they didn't get it, and they went to the half down 17. The biggest play no one remembers, though, is Jake Scott's fumble punt early in the first quarter. If Minnesota falls on that ball, then it changes the entire complexion of the game. As it was, Miami got lucky and was able to recover that fumble. Who knows what may have happened had Minnesota gotten that football. Finally, here's some homework for you, and not much this week, so I'm going a little light on you. Go out and get this book, though. It's called Shula, the Coach of the NFL's Greatest Generation by Mark Rybowski. If there's any one member of the Miami Dolphins team to look back on, it's Shula himself. What a great man and great coach he was. This book covers his entire career. That is all I have for today. In 2 weeks, we begin the greatest dynasty in the Super Bowl era, the 1970s Pittsburgh Steelers. The Vikings make it back to a second straight Super Bowl, only to run into one of the greatest teams of all time, the 1974 Steelers. Until then, this is Tommy A. Phillips. So long.
We here at the Sports History Network proudly partner with 26 podcasts, all revolving around the history of sports. But did you know that many of our hosts were sports history authors way before they started their shows? It's true. We've got Joe Ziemba, host of When Football Was Football, Joe Zagurski, host of Pro Football in the 1970s, Mark Morthier, host of Yesterday's Sports, Tommy Phillips, host of Lombardi Memories, and Scott Adamson, co-host of From the 55-Yard Line. All these authors have many books for you to choose from. To check them out, go to our website at sportshistorynetwork.com/sportshistorybooks. Pick up your copy today. Soundtrack provided by Kevin MacLeod of filmmusic.io.